So hi everybody, this is Mike Leahy. Thanks for joining us today to look at our portal software, our web-based portal software for managing vendors and managing customer orders. Bart Fannin will be doing the presentation on the portals. So for those who are not familiar with our company, we have been in business forever, and we have worked in the Macola environment forever. We specialize in working with manufacturers and distributors, and we are based in Cincinnati, Ohio. What stands out as sort of our core competency is we develop software that helps make your standard Macola software easier to use. And you see, we also put in there much easier to use. So you'll be able to judge on that as we go along. Okay. So we have two products that we're going to talk about today. One of them is the purchase order management software. This is for improving the collaboration, real-time collaboration with your vendors, not only purchase orders and due dates, but any notes that go along with it. It's basically designed to eliminate back and forth emails, back and forth phone calls, and so on. For example, when they get a purchase order, it immediately is emailed to them, so there's no chance of things getting lost. So it integrates directly with Macola, which means you can start using it right away. It's real time, it's web-based, so it can be used from any place in the world. And just the whole purpose is to eliminate this endless emails going back and forth. If you look at the flyer that I developed on this, it recalled a critical purchase order that was waiting was one of our customers up in northern Ohio, was waiting and waiting and waiting, and finally they called the vendor, and guess what? You know what the answer is? The vendor never received their purchase order. So this is a way to eliminate that. Okay, so target companies, who are the target customers or target vendors? Will be those that have a high volume or strategic vendors, like this critical component that never even got ordered. But it also then enables you to sort of lock in with that vendor and then improve the whole collaboration. And then this is my little quote down here. Recall recently when you, hopefully that wasn't recent when that happened with you. Okay, the next part of it, the other half, is the customer portal. And so this is something that can be used by sales reps. It can be used by key customers. And I know we have EDI and we have our Pulse e-commerce software, but there are situations where people want to be able to, in other words, you're getting your customer to key the order in for you. So again, the same thing. It's integrates as real time, integrates with Macola. You can use it right away, and so on. So again, target companies, people who have a lot of low dollar volume, low dollar orders. That's a target company, or people that can't hire enough to manually key in their orders. Okay. Everybody wants to know what the pricing is. There's two ways you can buy the software outright or license it outright. And you can see that it's basically $2,500 to get started. Then if you had, for example, more than 100 vendors or more than, 500 customers or sales reps, but the pricing is very flexible. And then for those who want an optional per month monthly licensing, it's $750 per month.
Okay, hi everyone. As Mike mentioned, my name's Bart Fannin. Mike and I have been working together for quite some time, and we've found just a lot of niches that this product has been able to fill that customers are looking for, our customers, I should say. And in your case, you'll be looking at this from a couple different perspectives while I'm going through it. One, from an internal perspective as let's say the customer service rep, and then later on possibly as a vendor connecting into your software, and then I'll go more once we start talking into the customer order side. So right now you should be seeing where it says Pulse PO Manager. So this is our purchase order manager side of the product. It's built from the same platform, so a lot of the options that I'm going to take you through here will be redundant once we go and show you over on the customer portal side. What I mainly mean is the look and feel of the software. It'll be very similar in that sense of how you interact and move around. On here we have, in our example for this demonstration, 4 what we're calling hubs. And these are predefined by you as the customer as to what you would like to have on your dashboard to have quickly available to be able to move around and access data-wise within your company. So in this case, I'm signed in as a person named Carrie G. That's the internal buyer, let's say for you as the customer. If you were to purchase this product and you had an internal buyer, and the reason I'm saying that is I'm going to be able to see a lot more than maybe you would be allowing a vendor to be able to see at this point. So as an internal buyer, maybe a vendor is calling in, talking to that buyer. That buyer might have access to all of the vendors in this case. And then I might be able to say, but I'd also like to limit what I'm able to see down to just the vendors that I interact with. Maybe you have internal buyers that work with some vendors and another buyer that works with others. We'll at least show you that example in this case. So on here in my top left hub, I've got one that's called All Buyers. Second one is referring to specifically my action items. Then we've got a couple other items on the right side to be able to show you if you have other things that you want to keep track of. In this example, open purchase orders. Maybe if I want to see if I have any open POs that are 1 to 2 weeks out for this week, or maybe those that are less than 60 days out. And then if I have other things that I particularly in my example, I want to have special attention to, I might have items awaiting inspection, brackets on order, bolts on order. These are all user definable to where you can set them up. Multiple people within your company can use these links once they're set up. Someone might say, I only want this temporarily. You could put that on there while you have maybe a shortage on your bolts. You could be able to see how many are on order and have that in as a hub, and then update your hub later on if and replace it with something else, or leave it on there as needed. So what I'd first like to do once I've gone through the layout of the hub is maybe take you into some of the items in this first one that I've got listed here for all buyers. So in this case, notice that I've got waiting on supplier with a count of 12. So that's saying that our ABC Bicycle Company is waiting on 12 items from either one or various suppliers. If I were to click on that, that'll take me into my list of items that we were referring to, where I should be able to see 12 items on here, as I mentioned. Going across, notice that I've got a predefined set of columns. I'm controlling what those are that come up as my default. I can change those at any time by clicking on the three circles here on the right side that are vertical. And from there, I can be able to choose whether to assort ascending, descending, change my filters, and change my columns. In this case, I'm going to choose my columns. And this has available all the fields that I have access to be able to see on the screen. And I could say, well, just show me those that are visible on the screen because I want to remove some. I don't want to have to look through some of the files, might have quite a few, and here there's 52 items to search through. I could say I just want to see those that aren't visible so I know what to add. Or I could come over here and I could say, well, I'd like to actually search. As Mike mentioned before, we have changed or added an ability to be able to search on the fields within Macola with a business English version of all the fields. Okay, so in this case, I start typing the word order, and I would like order weight added onto here. So it comes up, shows me my 4 choices. I choose order weight. I select the is visible option, and notice in the background, it's already added order weight on here. I could add other options if I choose to, but in that case, I may be good with what I've added. If I don't like where it defaulted in, I can just drag and drop and move my order to weight to any particular column that I would like, as you would expect, and be able to sort on this or narrow this down then as well. Okay, coming over to vendor name. Let's say then I want to look up information now that I've added this on a particular vendor. And so I'm going to type the word comp, and then I'm going to select this particular company that's come up here with this abbreviation. And so from here, I've then been able to select down to two particular order numbers, 23-00 and 24-00 for this particular vendor. And if I wanted then, once I've subset that on the list, to be able to show you how to do that, let's say I want to pick a particular order. In this case, I'll choose 24-00. And I've brought up the purchase order for this, this particular customer. Okay, on here I'll show you a little bit of the layout of the screen. I've got the company name that would be used in this case, any of the order information, the vendor that is being used for this. Then down below, any of the shipping information, who the buyer is, in this case that's myself, and any of the other shipping information across the right. If I come down to the bottom, this is where I'll be able to see the specific line items for that purchase order. Okay. And what we will show you is what's great on this, and one of the driving points of this is I'm seeing right now always the latest version of this purchase order, because I'm coming into the portal and I'm not seeing an outdated copy. So this promise date of 5/31, if that was what was put in the most recent, that's what's going to show up on here. Okay. If I scroll up to the top and I see this history area, this is expanding this. This would be able to show me any of the modifications that have taken place with this particular purchase order. In this case, this one's being used a lot for our demo purposes. If I come into the most recent change that took place on May 6th, that was by myself, this is who I'm signed in as, I'll be able to see that there was a change, that there previously was not a promise date keyed in, and we've put in a new promise date of May 31st, and for what it was, which line item it was for. All of the history that's taken place, so if a price change were to take place, multiple promise dates get updated, you would see the history of this and when it happens. If my vendor were to make this change, it would show with their name on here, and then I would have an option to be able to approve that change. And it would also notify me that the vendor has made a change on here. So again, main idea of this is I'm able to see the latest, I'm able to see the history of changes, and I'm able to authorize any changes from the vendor. So as Mike mentioned before, we had issues to where a customer has placed a purchase order with a vendor. They ask what the status is. The vendor says they've never gotten it. The idea of this is when I place the purchase order, we have triggered in the system that this purchase order, as we've seen on here, will a link will be emailed out to the vendor saying a new purchase order has been placed by ABC Bicycle Company. Please click here to access. Now this is our default of what we're putting in. You would put what the verbiage is that goes out on the email. That would be your default. But the beautiful part of it is it's a link coming back out to here. So the link is always coming to the latest version. We're no longer are we having faxed email copies that am I looking at the latest one or 6 versions before. Okay, so there's no worry about an attachment that needs to come out. If I choose to, though, I still could print this. I could physically print it, or I could save it as a PDF. Any of my choices would be available on there if I did want to go through any particular traditional means of being able to send it out. This could be to somebody internally, or I could send it out to out to a vendor or to anyone else, another third party for whatever particular reason, just to show you still have that option of being able to make a PDF version of this as well. Okay. If at any time
Bart,
while I'm going,
excuse me, Bart, there was a question that just came in, and the question was, could you just sort of recap what are the safeguards to make sure that things don't get lost? So, for example, when you as a customer, or the Macola customer, you issue this purchase order to the vendor, what happens at that point? Do they have to look at their monitor to see that? Do they get an email that contains the purchase order?
Yep, great questions. Yeah, great. Good. I was just about to take a pause and remind everyone to be able to enter in your questions on the questions section there. So good timing with this. So again, I'm back out at my main hub view. Okay, I've just come back to home, and starting from scratch inside Macola, when you go and take the traditional option to print your purchase order, it will kick off at that point the email to your vendor if you have them set up in your system to do this. That email is being set up inside here as to what the look of that will be. So you've got your base content to it, and then there'll be a hot link. So in other words, everybody would get the same message saying there's a new purchase order that's been generated by ABC Bicycle Company. As an example, please click here on that email, to which that would have a hot link for them to come out to this website here. This is hosted by your company in this case, and all they would need is a user ID and password. So if I were to log out, I could log in as that vendor and be able to see any items. So this j@d.com would be as if I've gotten the email and I've clicked the link. The link took me to the sign on. The sign on then allowed me to sign in, and notice me as Mr. Vendor, I'm only able to see one hub in this case. A lot of the items over on the right, I'm not able to see, and I'm only able to see specific items that are associated to me as the vendor, specific items to myself. So no other vendors are able to be seen in this example. Okay. Now on there, I could see that there might be an item that is waiting on me. So I might have waiting on supplier, and if the count was higher than 0, that would mean that there's an item that is waiting for me to be able to view. Okay, in this case, I'll bring one that is waiting on the inside company to be able to look at. This might be one that the vendor made an update to. Okay, and when I went in, I may have made an update, and it's notifying then you as a company, you would get a notification being able to see back there that you have items that are waiting on you as an internal company to look at. And in this case, I've got order number 41-00. Okay, this order status has been released, and it's again for me. And the last action was that this has been modified. Okay, if I go in, I can see, well, what was the modification that took place to it. Okay, come up into my notes. I would be able to see, okay, I modified, for example, I can type in a note here. Modified, let's say as an example, the price. Okay, and I could go into more details to what took place on there. But notice in this case, there may be an acknowledge area on here to be able to say I've acknowledged just the note, and I'll go over that again in a minute. But we'll come up here to the history, and we'll see, well, what was the modification that took place specifically? Okay, so the person could put in a note, but in this case, on May 20th, they put in a new promise date. Okay, and now that was showing to me that I had not viewed that yet, and that is for me to come into view. Now, in this case, I could acknowledge, and then depending on the timing of this, I would also have an option up here to approve this and to be able to show, okay, I approve this change. Okay.
Yeah, so this is great, Bart. You not only showed how the original purchase order cannot be overlooked, but if there were modifications on pricing or delivery dates or quantities, you showed how those cannot be overlooked. So that's
Correct.
Great. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Okay, great question. Feel free if I need to re-show anything or if you have a further question, ask in any moment. Coming back, I've signed out as the vendor and I've signed back in as Carrie again, so the internal buyer. And I will come out here and I'll just show you some of the other options that we've got on the list here to give you some ideas. So again, notice my waiting on supplier here is 12 under all buyers. Under my action items, waiting on supplier is 11. So that's in this example, one item is one that I would not normally take care of. But let's say that's done by Bill. So whoever that, that other 12th item was, I could have my action items, but let's say I'm covering for Bill for a week. I could copy something like this hub here, and I could just name it for a week, Bill's action items. And maybe that would have that one supplier that's waiting on Bill in that example. Okay. Here's one that it's waiting on me. So it's waiting for a specific update from me. Here are notifications sent to a supplier. So we went in and we made either a change or made the first purchase order for this, and we're waiting for the supplier to do something with this. Here are notes. We showed you the notes section that are waiting for the supplier to read. Okay, so if I come in here, it's going to again take me to all my purchase orders that have notes. And what is it done on it? It's actually got a filter on here that's saying where we know the note has not been read. Okay, and this would be able to show me all the items in that case for that we're waiting for the supplier to be able to read it. So again, we're losing the concern of, did you read my last update? Yeah, I read it. Well, I don't think you did on the correct purchase order. Oh, yes, you're right. I read the first one, but not the second one. Okay, so again, that account, hopefully that would be down to 0 then in that case, if I was on the phone then with that vendor. Okay. All right, so let's see, I want to take you back in and I'll just again show you the notes items, and I went through it a little quick, and then we'll show you the attachments as well. Okay, so again, I came back in, I've narrowed down to who I would like to look at. And then I'm going to come in and I could have gone directly in if I knew that number by heart. What I first want to do is I'm going to show you the edit capability. If I have that option, you can control and limit who has the ability to edit. I could come down here and let's say I was either the vendor or I could do this internally, but the cost of something could change for any particular reason, or the quantity ordered could change as well. I could change those items right here on the screen if I choose to, and then I could save that. And if everything's okay, it'll go through its normal validation checks on this. Okay, and then I would be able to click on edit again if I want to just be able to see it the same format that you saw it in. Notice that I've got 6 here. Again, if I come up and let's back out to the non-edit mode, and I'll be able to see my history, and notice that at 7:28, 2:55 Eastern time, a change was made. Well, what was that was made? Well, my quantity ordered went from 5 to 6 in this case. My quantity remaining is listed then as well. Okay. Closing that, I mentioned I would just briefly again show you the notes on here, and I'm just adding a note just to be able to show you how easy it is. I have my notify here, so somebody had mentioned if this is flagged, this would notify the vendor that's associated with this in our setup. I can click save, and the same would work in the other direction. And I've added a note here just for people to be able to see, and there's always the history of it. Last thing I'll show you is I can attach any document to this. Okay, any particular, in this example, it's a spreadsheet, but it could be a diagram, could be, for some reason work instructions, anything else that needs to be associated with this can be attached. And again, I'll show you the history of who attached it and when. Okay. All right, in any moment, if I want to come back out to the hub, I'm just clicking on the icon in the top left-hand corner. And that was from a high level, kind of a good walkthrough of the vendor side. If there's anything that you feel that I missed or you want to see more in detail, let me know. But in this case, I'm going to sign out. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to sign in this time. In this case is customerservice@email.com. And this is actually taking us into our customer portal portion. And we apologize, Mike was mentioning the computer issues that we had. So we are going to have the same icon up here. Normally I would get that to show you just a different icon to show you we're in a different version of the software. And in this case, the same look and feel across the screen. So what's nice is it keeps you being able to see the same idea, same pull downs, other choices that we've got, because we are coming in from a customer side. And so what is the difference between this? Well, in this case, this is the interaction now we were doing between your company and your vendors. Now it's with your company and your in your particular customers. Before I get too far, any questions, Mike?
No, but there's a question. Yeah, there's a question and a comment. One question was the interaction, the writing back to Macola. So if there's a change made to a purchase order, is that writing back to Macola? So excellent question, and I think the answer is definitely yes. This is real time. Maybe we didn't stress this enough, but anytime a change is made, so let's go through the workflow. You as the company, you're issuing a purchase order. The vendor gets the purchase order. They want to make a modification. It goes directly in, as it's approved, goes directly into Macola. If you make the change in Macola or in the dashboard, that's real time as well. So anything, it's definitely writing back constantly.
Yeah. So if you're familiar, thank you. Go ahead.
And then there was another comment as we're going into the customer side. There was a question a minute ago, and the question was, everybody will laugh at this. We don't allow our reps to key in customer orders. How can I use this? So that's a common complaint. So the way that it works is that if you have reps out at a trade show or reps on the road that are keying in orders, those orders have to be approved. So they're not just being thrown into Macola and hoping for the best. So the idea is that the labor of the rep would be to key it in, make sure the quantity is in there, make sure the right item is in there, and then somebody in the office then can look over, see if the ship via code and all the correct things have been inserted. So just want to mention that as well, that customer orders can go directly in or can be edited and approved ahead of time.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. Okay, yes, so all of this, as we've been going through here, has been reading directly into our Macola database, as Mike mentioned. So, okay. Yeah, so in this example, we would say, as we're over on the customer portal, what are some examples of what companies would want to do with this? So one customer has quite a few 1099 outside sales reps that they go out to trade shows, and they often come back with large quantity orders of small items, and they're typically calling back in to the customer's internal employee staff, and they are duplicating everything that the person already may have electronically or on a piece of paper, whatever it is, and they're calling the order in, and then the internal staff is placing those orders into Macola. So their desire with this was to let the outside sales reps, these could be W-2 employees, these could be 1099 employees, be able to log in from wherever they are, and from their hotel room, at the conference, wherever it may be, at a customer's location, and be able to put the orders in. And as Mike mentioned, when you put the order in, if you give authority to do this, then it would go in as an order that's on hold to where it can still be reviewed within Macola, still go through all Macola's normal validation processes, but it wouldn't actually fully place the order until you give the confirmation that it's okay to do so. And what you would then be able to do is allow the outside sales rep, you would allow a particular customer, if you choose to actually key in the order. And you could, in my example, I'm signed in as the inside customer service rep. So I could key in the order again from here as well, and not, or review the item and not go into Macola to do this as well, if that makes sense. So from here, I've come in and I've clicked on purchase orders, and actually I want to say, Mike, I might be, make sure I'm signed in as the correct person in this case. And what I will do is I'm going to come in over on this side, and I want to show you another example that we've got here. So again, this is example database that we've been using, and so I could be the internal customer service rep. I could be a customer signed in. I could be a 1099 or a W-2 outside sales rep, or any other inside sales reps that we've got in this case. And in this case, I could be able to come up here and I could come under sales, and I could say I'd like to open a sales order. Okay, and this is to where somebody could actually create what we're mentioning. This will create it in Macola, but on hold in this example. Okay, so I come up here and this has got my company's name. I come up to the customer area where I could key in the customer number. Okay, I'm going to do a search in this example, and I'm going to be able to find any particular customer that I would like to use. If I had a name, I would type it in here, but I'm just going to choose the second one on the list. Okay, in this example here, they automatically default in from Macola my ship to information. I have the ability to edit that if I choose to, or do another lookup as an example as well. My terms information came in as we would typically expect in Macola. All the other fields that we would typically see, ship via code, the default salesperson that may be used. I could add a note then on this as well. And then what I can do down at the bottom is I can just start keying in, if I choose to, any of the line items that I would like to be able to add. Okay, come down here, I'm going to click add new line item. It's going to come out to my list and be able to show me any of the line items that I have. While that's coming up, I'm going to come back over to this screen. There we go. And I would say, okay, I'm going to choose the bullets here as an example. I could come over and say how many I would like to choose. I will choose 5. And if I chose to, I can save, or I can add in as many other line items as I would like. And in this case, it actually, if everything goes through okay, it would allow me to then save that as a order into the system. Again, I could print, I could email, but everything is going to be on here along with the history and the documents and the notes that I would like to attach to it. Okay. Coming back out to, let's go back out to this home page here. I would be able to then come in and say, well, let me go and let's take a look at any of my open sales orders that I might have within the system. So again, I keyed one in here, but this would allow me to look at any open sales orders. So you as the customer, your customer could do this. Your outside sales reps or your inside sales reps can be able to come in and be able to subset this by just the authority that you grant them. So based on what I signed in as is what I'm going to be able to see here in this example. As I told you before, this was the internal customer service rep, excuse me. And I will be able to, okay. On here, I've got my order number, order type, status going across the top. Okay, I again can be able to come out here and I can choose to add a column, as I mentioned before. Okay, and I could see a list that I've got on here, and notice that I can change the filter on here, so I could look for those of any particular date. Okay, so I could say those that are maybe I want to find my open orders that are over 6 months old. I could key that in here and then be able to subset by that. Okay. Again, over here on the viewed date, this will allow me to see, this was similar to both sides of the 2 different softwares. Has my vendor and or has my, anybody, my customer actually logged in and viewed this particular order. Okay, and I could be able to narrow down anything like that. Same idea with my totals here. I could narrow down who I would like to be able to see on this particular customer order. Okay, let me come back here to this example and we'll come back to the home. And while that's coming up here, I will take you back to the main menu. And I just want to show you a couple other items that we've got available in this example. Okay, so I could say I would like to only see the invoice sales orders, any lost quotes I could see, converted quotes or open quotes in this example. So the choices on here can be limitless as to how many choices you would like to be able to see as to what to bring into here. I'm waiting for this particular one to load to be able to show you some more on this one as well. Okay, so let's come back in and let's look at open quotes in this case. Still being able to search similar database on this, but it's limited to specifically now quotes versus orders in this case. So we're looking at the status, and what will come up is notice that I've got a list of 4. Notice that my order type is quote in this case, and these are currently listed as booked, but these may be ones that I might want to see, okay, history-wise, what happened in this case, and I could check the notes on those then as well. Okay. Any questions so far, Mike?
There's 2 comments I wanted to make, or 2 questions that came in. One was a situation where the customer orders are already in Macola, or the customer orders have come in maybe through EDI. So in other words, they're not going to get the customer to key in their own orders. But and that's with this particular company or industry, once the order is brought in, a lot of times there's changes to it. There's technical specs to it or due date changes. So the idea would be that you could still use this to give to your customer, your key customers, to allow them to make changes, and this be the portal to go back and forth and communicate those changes. So the idea being that you don't have to have the customer keying in their own orders, and you could use this just for the concept of modification. The other comment that came in was something a little bit similar, in that we're working with a technical product that has a lot of correspondence, a lot of drawings, a lot of back and forth, we'll just call them technical specs. And this is ideal for that, where, Macola, you'd be able to sometimes, you'd be able to maybe attach a few things to this, but the idea would be that this was a lot more attractive for them, for having in one place all the technical information that has to do with that order, because it was constantly changing.
Thanks, Mike.
That's all on questions right now, or comments.
Okay. All right. Well, to piggyback on this is I want to be able to come out to here on this and show you a few more examples with that. Is possibly, again, a customer, before they place an order, may want to be able to see the inventory. You as a salesperson may want to be able to see the inventory as well. So kind of a nice feature here is that if you give the choice, and you could again narrow down and subset this list as to which inventory items can be seen, but you would be able to see, okay, I've got quite a few items here that are not on hand, and I could narrow down to just the ones that are on hand. So if I ever have another option of an item to purchase, then you would be able to see this as I'm interacting with the customer in that example too. Back on the previous screen, I also want to be able to show one of the nice features that we've got is to also check on the shipped orders. Is in this example, this customer is keeping track of all the items that they're shipping through, whether it's FedEx, let's say FedEx, or UPS, or any of the other maybe third parties that are not as common as well, are being kept track of in this database. So once it comes up, we'll be able to show we're looking at, we do need you to enter in the tracking number onto the order. Okay, so at some point that does have to be done. Once that is associated, we can, for example, some of the well-known ones have a certain nomenclature to their numbers, like 1Z might be a popular example to be able to see, and we would know that 1Z is always used by either, let's say, FedEx or UPS. And in that case, we would then have the link right on there. So you click on the shipping number, you click the link, and it takes you right out to the FedEx tracking to see what the status is. And then if you, there are some other rules that you might have if you have another carrier. We've built that in as well to be able to see what the shipping status is of that particular one right at that moment. All right. Any other questions,
Okay,
Mark?
Yeah, Barb, we
Yes.
had two more questions that have come in. How could this coincide with an e-commerce site? I guess it definitely could. I was thinking about that. That's a very good question. I was thinking about that earlier, that let's say that you're using Amazon.com or you're using Walmart.com and you're bringing in orders constantly through there. Maybe you're using our Pulse e-commerce software. So the orders are constantly coming in, and if there were changes to those orders, yeah, I think you definitely could. Now, Amazon themselves is not going to look. You're not going to have them use that. So maybe provide a little bit more of a explanation on the question. The second part of her question was, can this connect to UPS World Ship to transfer tracking information? It doesn't right now. That's an excellent suggestion for a feature, but I think that's something that could easily be done. UPS provides a nice portal, an electronic portal, to be able to push tracking numbers out. In this case, we're pushing, what Bart's about to show you is pulling tracking numbers in. So maybe I'll, Angie, I'll come back to you later with more specific answers, but thanks great for your questions.
Yep. Yep. So these are all good questions, and and I think the spirit of, what we are trying to, that screen came up and then it went away. The spirit of what we're trying to do here is, I think with our team is, once something is entered electronically once, we don't want it to have to be duplicated. So interfacing with the other third-party products like that would be the spirit of where we're going, to where again, once somebody has something captured, in an Excel spreadsheet, let's say, importing that in has been kind of our history of that, to say, hey, we've got it captured once. Why are we entering in again? One, to save time. Two, to keep from mistakes happening. Yeah, in this case here, I'm not sure why it's taking so long, but I'll be able to show you while it's been building here. Again, the tracking numbers for invoice sales. So we've got Old Dominion has been given a tracking number, and also some FedEx examples here. And then as we scroll down, UPS as well. So notice this 1Z on here. If I click on this, it'll take me directly out to the UPS site to be able to show me the status of what that particular one is associated with it. So we have built into this, and in some cases, to where we know, okay, in these cases it's a UPS tracking number, but in some other cases where you might have something unique like this, we would need you to just assign what that is, but then we would be able to still have the nice link there to constantly be able to update it and see, okay, in that example. Okay. But again, the spirit, to answer that question, the spirit is to try to get all of that connected as much as possible. So with EDI, with other shipping softwares, we want to be able to interact with this as much as we can. All of this has been developed in-house, and so we do have regular developers who have made this. So if we ever do need a one-off kind of a connection or a new idea that's come up, that's typically what will be available for us, to be able to interact and build that into the software for you too. Okay. Right, Mike, unless there's something you think that I've missed on here, I think I've done at a high level a good overview of both.
Yeah, I think this is fine. We wanted to restrict this to 45 or 50 minutes, and I think we've met our goal there. All of you received an email from me or through the registration. So for anybody, if you have more questions or wanted to talk about this some more, please get back to us. And then if there are any questions that I haven't answered through the chat window, I will answer those in a few minutes. No, I think this has been great. We appreciate everybody's input here, taking the time out to take a look at this afternoon. That's great.
Okay, thanks everyone.
Okay, if there are no more questions, have a great rest of the week, and look forward to talking some more. Thanks. Bye-bye.